It's the end of an era as we bring an end to a long-running event that will leave many names from the roster on the chopping block, but who will find themselves booted out of the door. Not only that, but we make some tweaks to our product that should in theory help increase our show ratings going forward, but will the production penalties still be too damaging? And will we need to spend millions of dollars to get things back on track? And before we get into it, make sure you drop a like on this video as we once again look for 400 likes. Head over to the Patreon where you can gain access to a whole bunch of save points from throughout the series, and buy TEW IX using the banner at the top of TEWDB.com, where there's currently a 20% discount for the next few days. So if you have been holding off for a sale, now is the time to strike. We're back in the save then, and we're bracing for the upcoming Summer Series tour, which will then lead into the Road to Strong Style 60 tour, which will then of course end with our biggest show yet, Strong Style 60 Night 1 and Night 2, so technically 2 shows. However, before we get there, we do have a number of things to do, and I'm not sure how far we're going to get in this episode. I know we're at least going to be able to get to Strong Style Propaganda, which could be, and I think will be, the last ever Strong Style Propaganda show, as I do just kind of want to scrap it just so that we can get to the main shows quicker. Now, I don't know what that means for the future of the Propaganda roster, which you can see here, and I'm sure many of these names will be sticking around, but they will just be added back to their respective divisions, although there may be some cuts to the roster overall. But we do have a problem with the championship as well, because there's no longer a show to go with the name. So the Strong Style Propaganda Championship or the Strong Style Propaganda armband will likely remain in the company for now, and of course this is a ticket to a championship match of the champions choosing if they manage to hit the 180 day mark with their reign. But of course they have to vacate the armband in order to get that championship match. So in Shaft's case, who is the first and current champion, if he gets 11 more days with the belt, he then has an option to cash it in for a title match. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And I think for the future, it'll just be defended on tour shows, which will be kind of the Night 1, Night 2 and Night 3 shows. And then we'll go from there. But as I say, I think we're going to scrap Propaganda as a show for now and just focus, as I say, on the main shows. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of room on the cards for the Propaganda Championship. Another important thing about this upcoming show actually is to see whether we've restored back to our usual attendance. So if we go back to last month, which is July, our attendance dropped to under 3,000 for the Propaganda show and mid 3,000s for the tour shows, and then the main show was at 4,627. This drop is more than half of what we were getting the month prior, with Propaganda hitting 10,000, and so did the tour shows. And then the main show hit 14,000. So yeah, a 10,000 people drop on the main show compared to Strong Style Showdown 2029. Now, I think that drop was due to, and I don't know this for sure, but moving the Strong Style 58 show to the 30th of June. And for whatever reason, the game is kind of weird, and if you run too many shows close to each other, it drops your attendance. Now, as I say, I don't know if that's the case, but that's the only thing we can go off for now. And today we're going to find out if we are still being punished for attendance, if it was a 1 month thing, or if it's going to be the reality going forward. And if so, it's going to be difficult financially, because we do rely very much on ticket sales on the night, as well as merchandise through the door. But anyway, we're going to find out whether that's the case later on, but we do have a few things I want to do first. And the first thing is I'm interested in changing our product slightly. So what I want to do is just for now test moving our product to main event spotlight. And what this will do, instead of a regular focus, it will mean that the majority of our show rating will come from the main event. So as you can see here, regular focus was calculated as 70% of the main event's rating, 20% of the best match outside of the main event, and then 10% of the average of the rest of the card. However, with main event spotlight, the rating will be calculated as 90% of the main event's rating and 10% of the average of all of the rest of the matches. So if we have a killer main event, that means we're going to have a killer show rating. So I want to experiment with this for the summer series and we'll see how it goes, because usually the main event is our best show, and this will also prevent any kind of mid matches bringing the rating down. So if we can't have a consistent 70 to 80 matches across the board, which is something we haven't been able to do recently, then this is definitely beneficial, because if we get a 70 to 80 main event, then we're more likely to get a show rated between that range. And also for angle focus, I want to go with tight focus as well, which does exactly the same but for angles. So if we have a good opening segment where we normally have the commentary breakdown and it's an 80, then our angle rating for the night to then influence our show rating will be better than it would be if we had a bunch of mid angles. So yeah, we don't normally do too well in angles, so I think having a tight focus will definitely help. So we're going to save that in then. There shouldn't be any issues kind of waiting for it to kick in. And as I say, we're going to test it out as we go on and find out if it's the right call, and I think it will be. And also one thing we need to mention is an update on house shows. So whilst we do have enough wrestlers now, we are waiting on a few exclusive contracts to be confirmed. So all of the contracts have been signed exclusively, but we're waiting for some of the wrestlers to finish working in their other promotions before becoming 100% exclusive with us. So we're waiting on Egil Blanc, Pac, Roosh and Stephanie Vaquer, who isn't on this list. So we might need to add her if she is on here, but we might have to wait for her to join from NXT, and it looks like we will have to wait. But yeah, I think before the next show, we should be able to get the house shows locked in. So in this episode, we should be able to put together a schedule and be able to start running those today and see how beneficial it is financially. And we know that it'll be beneficial because these talents will have more matches within a month. Again, there's going to be quite a lot of admin today. So another thing that I want to do is kind of go through and kind of look at some of the projects, I guess, for talent that I'm specifically trying to boost in popularity. And the first person that we're going to start with is Eric Hammer, who is of course the current Strong Style Heavyweight Champion. Now you can see here that we've actually got his popularity up to 52 with his current reign. And you can see within the year, he was as low as 23 in the Mid-South. And this reign, as I say, winning the belt from Alex Kane and then making all of the defenses that he's made, he's managed to get up to 52, which is huge. So very much a success for Eric Hammer. And he will be defending the belt against Alex Kane at Strong Style 60. So we've built up a strong champion for Alex Kane to potentially dethrone. But we'll see, of course, the result of that once we get to the show itself. And another person I've been specifically looking to boost in popularity is Mayu Iwatani. Now, of course, she was this year's Women's World Cup winner, and she is now the #1 contender for the Strong Style Women's Championship and will be taking on Jordan Grace at Strong Style 60. And yeah, I really wanted to build up Mayu Iwatani, and once her popularity reflects her in-ring ability, we should be on to an absolute winner, because of course some of the in-ring performance comes from how popular the wrestler is. So once they're on par, she'll be doing even better than she already currently is. So if we take a look at her popularity, then we have managed to get her up within 1 year to 63, and last August she was on 51. It's very much a big boost, especially once she won that Women's World Cup and defeated Jordan Grace as well, the champion, in that tournament in the semi-final. So the Mayu Iwatani project is very much on course to be a success right now. And another person that we've been specifically trying to boost in popularity is Shun Skywalker, again another #1 contender, this time for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, and will be taking on Kevin Blackwood at Strong Style 60. And as for Shun, he is currently a major star in the promotion, and once again, once his popularity reflects his in-ring ability, we should be getting some banging ratings from him. And as you can see, he was 52 1 year ago, and he's now currently 66. And of course, he got a big jump last month from 60 to 66 with the win in the Strong Style Showdown, which no doubt helped. And he's well on his way to becoming one of the most popular wrestlers in the company, if he isn't already. Actually, I'm going to check that in just a second, and I'll take a look at all of our major star wrestlers and see who is the most popular. And anyway, another project specifically that I've been looking to build up is Yuma Ayagi. Again, we have been lacking very much in the heavyweight division pretty much throughout the series. And if we take a look at Yuma Ayagi's skills, he is somebody that has a lot of potential when it comes to popularity, and then in turn that will help his performances. So if we actually do look at his match history, you can see that in Japan, where he's much more popular, he pulls off ratings of a 69, and if we go to All Japan as well, he got a 72 there, whereas for us he gets slightly under that, so you can kind of see where he'll be if he does get popular in the United States. And I think he could even surpass those ratings that he gets in Japan, because he's not even the most over guy in Japan by any means, and he's still only 68 in his most over region, and I think we can get past that in the United States. With that said, let's find out how his progress has been. And exactly 1 year ago he had 22 popularity in the Mid-South and is now at 46, so we've more than doubled his pop this past year, and he is now established as a well-known wrestler to the fans, so one step below star, and of course we want to eventually get him into the major star category at some point, and I think he's well on his way to that. And one final wrestler that I want to check out is LJ Cleary, who again has a lot of in-ring ability and is somebody that I think perhaps deserves a better push than he's been given, although he is a former champion, but I think could be positioned as one of our top baby faces, and he is in a feud now with Pac, which can hopefully help us establish him as a top name once again in the division. And he is considered a star in the company, which is great to see, and he has 52 popularity in the Mid-South, and he was 43 1 year ago, so he's gone up by 9 points, which is pretty good. Now that he is exclusive to us, he's somebody that we need to start building up, and so actually is Eagle Blanc. So we'll take one last look at a wrestler's progress, and somebody that actually isn't even at the peak of their popularity for this past year, as in April he had 30 pop, now he's at 29, and somebody that now that he's exclusive to us, I really want to kind of build as a project for us. And now that the propaganda show is effectively cancelled, he'll be getting some opportunities on the touring shows, and hopefully we can build him up, as I say, to becoming a real threat as a babyface in the junior heavyweight division. And if Shun Skywalker was to take the title at Strong Style 60, we will need baby faces. And even if he doesn't take the title, surely we're going to have to find some baby faces to feud with Shun in the future. But that's all for tracking popularity, and if there is anybody else that you want to see, do let me know in the comments down below, of course. But for now, let's move on to checking our morale. So what I want to do is see if there's anybody that needs a bonus in order to make them happy. And we're going to go to morale and any negative morale. And we've only got 3 people that are unhappy. So Malachi Black being the first, and he's unhappy at losing in the Strong Style Showdown final to Shun Skywalker. Since he did the job for us, we're going to give him a $3,000 bonus, and we'll see if that makes him happy. And he is still annoyed, so we're not going to push on with it. Matt Riddle is annoyed, but I'm not too willing to give him a bonus. And of course, Pac is unhappy. And yeah, he's just always unhappy about losing. And we're going to try and give him a $3,000 bonus as well, and see if we can get him any closer to the green there and give that bonus. And he's irritated now, so not as annoyed as he once was. But yeah, I don't want to kind of spend a fortune today on trying to make everybody happy, because we need to make August a profitable month, as we lost $1.2 million last month, not only due to the drop in attendance, production upgrades, and mostly the upgrade to the broadcaster. And one last thing, if we are cancelling propaganda as a show, which I think we are, but I'm kind of having second thoughts as we play, because we're going to lose some money through the ticket sales that we make on the night. So what I might do is have 4 tour shows leading up to a main show instead of having propaganda. But as I say, we will see how it goes. But so what I'm actually going to do now is move propaganda, because it was originally clashing with the night 1 of the summer series, just because of the way that the shows are put together. So propaganda is down as the 2nd Tuesday of the month, and summer series was 8 days before the 4th Wednesday of the month. So that just so happens to force a clash, which doesn't normally happen. But what we're going to do instead is move propaganda to the 7th of August. So that's actually going to make this show happen in 6 days time, which means we can run the show and then make any potential signings after the fact, and that will give us a week to bring in any names that will be coming in for the summer series. So what I'm going to do now is skip forward to the day of the show unless anything else happens between now and then. Okay, so we are on the day of the show, and there is a reason to stop before we get into tonight's action, as 2 contracts are set to expire from wrestlers on our shortlist. So the first is actually Prince Devitt, of course, Finn Balor in WWE, and his WWE contract is coming to an end. I don't really want to compete with the kind of wages that it would require to bring him in. So if we take a look at WWE's offer, and they have offered to renew his contract for another 18 months, he's going to cost at least $48,000, and it will probably be much more if we were trying to compete with WWE, because they would come back with another offer. Plus they're so much bigger than us, so we're going to have to pay over the odds, so it'll probably come close to $100,000 in order to keep him. And the same can be said about Dominic Mysterio, of course the brother of strong style legend Rey Mysterio 4, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to compete with WWE this time around. But that does tell me that there may be some other WWE contracts that are coming to an end, so why don't we take a look at the roster and see who could be leaving. So actually there are a number of contracts that are coming to an end in 4 days, and it looks like all of these names are confirmed to be leaving, and there's actually up to 11 days there. So it looks like Rezar, Cody Rhodes, who we already know about, Zelina Vega, Orange Cassidy, Nikki Cross and Chad Gable are all leaving WWE. Now there could be some interesting names to bring in for tours. I think Chad Gable specifically would be very interesting given his Olympic background and our kind of desire to have legitimate competitors on the roster to mix with our guys. Also, the contract of Rhea Ripley is coming to an end, although it looks like she's probably staying because it doesn't say that she's leaving. So yeah, they've probably made an offer and she's too big for us to even speak to. So our best Australian wrestler will have to remain as Steph DeLanda. Randy Orton has a contract that's coming to an end, and it looks like he would speak to us, but yeah, again, too expensive and somebody I'm not particularly interested in anyway. Charles Robinson has a contract that's coming to an end. Now, this could be someone that we pick up with his 95 refereeing, and he doesn't appear to have an offer from WWE, so I'm actually going to shortlist Charles Robinson and keep him in my thoughts going forward. That seems all for WWE, but let's actually check out some of the promotions while we're here. So is there any NXT contracts coming to an end? Now, of course, we've already signed Stephanie Vaquer, who will be joining us in 2 days' time. And it looks like there's nothing else really exciting coming up when it comes to NXT free agency. Now let's check AEW as well. Let's go to roster and sort by expiry date. And actually, I've just noticed Chaz Betts is AEW bound, and that is Chad Gable. So I've just mentioned that we might be able to get him, but it looks like he's heading to AEW instead, which is very cool to see. And other than that, there's not too many interesting contracts in there. But for Ring of Honor then, as one last check, let's see. And again, there's nothing interesting there. And actually, why not check New Japan Pro Wrestling as well while we're here and see if there's any names that we could potentially see join Strong Style in the future. Now, there is one expiring contract that we would be able to speak to, and that is Sho. So he is confirmed to be leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's 39. He would be a good junior for us, and maybe we'll see him at some point. I probably will shortlist him, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And there's some upcoming expiring contracts in New Japan that could be interesting, but we'll leave those for now as we move on to tonight's show. And actually, before we get there, we can also confirm that I think everybody that's on an exclusive contract has now left their other promotions. So let's just quickly check that and go to wrestler exclusive written. And I'm just going to skim through and keep an eye on I only work for Strong Style. And if that's the case for everybody, then we can take a look at our house show schedule. Now, the only person not on there is Stephanie Vaquer, but we do have enough now to actually put on house shows. And Stephanie will, as I say, join us in 2 days' time. So that's very exciting for the women's division. But let's take a look at putting on some house shows. So here is all of our house show talent for now. And again, in 2 days' time, this will include Stephanie Vaquer as well. And as for house show loop, what I'm going to do is just have the Mid-South for now, because I think financially this would be beneficial because the attendance would be higher. But yeah, again, I'm not even entirely sure how house shows would work. So we're going to just have to play it by ear as we go. And do let me know actually if we run house shows in other regions, whether that would increase our popularity there. And that would be interesting to know. But for now, I'm just going to focus on attendance and ticket sales. So we're going to stick with the Mid-South. And what I'm going to do is run shows shows, obviously not on Tuesday and Wednesdays, which is when we typically run our main shows and touring shows. So we're probably going to go actually with Fridays and Sundays. So they can have Saturday off, but they're going to work Fridays and Sundays, which feels like a good schedule because they've got Mondays off. Then they're going to work Tuesdays and Wednesdays, then they've got Thursdays off, then they're working Fridays, Saturdays off, and then Sundays in. So that's what we're going to go with then. And we're going to leave house show booking as none for now. And then maybe we can experiment with adding specific matches that we want to see on the card. Actually, I will do Aegil Blanc versus Shun Skywalker as opponents and start monitoring that. So since that's something that we did mention earlier as a possibility, we want to kind of get Aegil Blanc to that point. So I think working with Shun would be beneficial going forward in case we do ever pull the trigger on that and get Aegil Blanc popular enough to compete with such a big name. So actually the show is tomorrow night. So we need to skip forward one more day and then we'll get into propaganda. Okay, so we are at the show then, as there was no reason to stop and I've gone straight into it. And nobody's going to be getting the night off tonight, as we do need a killer main event. So I'm just going to have all of the main guys on the show and go from there. And hopefully there's no issues between anybody that doesn't like each other. But for attendance, we're now expecting 10,557 fans in the building tonight, which means our attendance has fixed itself. And again, the mystery of the fluctuating attendance continues. But we will be running tonight. I think we're going to go outside of Texas for this one. And we're going to go to the Bramlage Coliseum. And I think this will be the first time that we've ran in this building. So we will be jumping across the state lines to Kansas. And this building is in Manhattan, Kansas, with a capacity of 11,000. So we might be able to sell it out tonight if we can overperform our expected attendance. And it is the home of the Kansas City State University men's and women's basketball teams. And it looks like the name of that team is the Kansas State Wildcats, who look to be a decent team with them being in the NCAA Division I. And it very much looks like your typical basketball arena. And it is impressive looking, and it should look even better with the strong style crowd in tonight. But in terms of wrestling then, the only shows that I can see have happened in this building are actually WCW house shows. So one was in August 1992 and one was in April 1993. So as far as I can tell, it's been a pretty long time since wrestling was hosted in this building, but tonight it will return as Strong Style Americas comes to Manhattan, and not that Manhattan. But let's select this venue then and move on and finalize some broadcasters, and we're going to automatically select and use all of them. And for booking team meeting, we are down a person from the booking team because Chris Brooks has left following the end of his touring contract. Now I think that's actually going to be a contract that we offer today, and we might bring him back on a written deal, maybe not an exclusive written. And I didn't actually get the chance to check whether he had chemistry in the last episode, so we're going to have to run him back into the booking team for the summer series and go from there. But in terms of tonight, we do have 215 points to spend, so we're going to grab the typical creative finishes, and we've got one that's a near certainty for Janai Kai, so we'll keep that. We're going to get an angle idea as well, since we've now got a tight focus on angles, and we can really push on to make that opening angle with the commentators as good as it can be. And this one's a near certainty, so we can use that for that. And we're also going to grab a storyline idea. I think we've got another one as well in the bank, so we can try and boost some of our storylines ahead of Strong Style 60. And let's grab a character idea as well. And this one's a big gamble, so we're going to discard it. And let's grab one more. We've got enough points. Why not? And this one's likely to succeed for Jordan Grace. So maybe we'll use that after this pre-show stuff. And for locker room incidents then, Kevin Blackwood brightened the mood with some cartoon drawings, standard. And LJ Cleary trained with Brent Backlund. Killer Kelly gave us a creative idea, so we're going to check that out in just a second. And Schaff and Joseph Finnick Jr. are now travel buddies, which is cool to see. And Aegil Blanc and Joseph Finnick Jr. have bonded recently, so the two Frenchmen there, and friends in real life from what I can gather, are bonding in the game as well, which is good. And for addressing the locker room, we are saving that Inspire for Strong Style 60 Night 2. But what we're going to do before that actually is pull a rib. I don't think we've pulled a rib in quite a while. So let's pull a rib on somebody that I think would see the funny side, and we'll go with Genki Horiguchi. Why not? He's happy, and let's pull a rib on him. And it completely failed to provide any negatives or positives, which is okay, I guess. But anyway, let's take a look at this character idea then for Jordan Grace, and we're going to apply it to her and see what it does for her. She's currently white hot, and is pleased, but let's make her even more pleased by applying it. And it was a failure. Okay, and now she's annoyed. Perfect. So let's give her a bonus to make up for it. Let's give her $3,000, which seems to be the standard going rate today, and she's still annoyed. Okay, that is not ideal. And I think that's actually 2 character ideas in a row that have failed, so maybe we don't do those going forward, but we'll see. And as for current creative ideas, this is what we're working with, and we do still have the Shun Skywalker storyline idea, which is the one I was talking about earlier, which is a near certainty, and then we've got a couple of others as well to use. But I think we're going to do it closer to Strong Style 60, as I say. And the Killer Kelly one is extremely risky, so we're probably not going to use that. But for now, though, I'm going to go in and book the show, and I'll be back with you in just a second. Okay, so the card is booked in then, and we've got what I think is a good show for the final episode, at least for now, of Propaganda. And I think we're going to pay tribute to the great show with some good matches tonight. So let's break down what's going to be happening, and the pre-show will see the return of Stephen Wolf, who longtime fans of the promotion may remember, and he'll be taking on Brent Backlund in tonight's dark match. And then we're going to open up with the commentary breakdown, which will run down what's going to be happening tonight before Schaff defends the Propaganda armband against the Frenchman Aigle Blanc, and this will be the last defense before Schaff hits the 180-day mark of his title reign. So if we take a look, he's currently on 175 days, having made 3 successful defenses so far, which was 3 months ago, so we probably should have done better for that. But as I say, if he wins tonight, he will pass into the 180-day mark, which will earn him a heavyweight championship match at any time if he chooses. Now, he doesn't have to choose, but that's obviously up to him. And then we go into a match that will see 6 of Propaganda's finest going against each other in 6-man tag team action, as Bojack teams with fellow babyfaces Jackson Drake and Myung Jae Lee to take on Adam Priest, Joseph Finette Jr. and Lavanuel. As again, we say goodbye to the show, and then the main event will see Shun Skywalker, one of our biggest stars, take on LJ Cleary in the junior heavyweight division. So that should be one hell of a main event, and I think now that we've got main event spotlight on, it should be a decent show as well. So let's find out how we get on then, as we start off with the dark match, and Brent Backlund has defeated Stephen Wolf in 14 minutes 38 seconds by pinfall with a running lariat, revealing for the first time his finishing move, and Brent Backlund there scoring a 29 in what was a technical masterclass, so not exactly his speciality, but we needed one for the night, so we went with it, and he's actually done quite well considering his usual ratings. And Stephen Wolf there with a 43, and we've got a 41 for this dark match, so that's actually pretty good. But let's move on to the opening segment then, where the commentary team reveal that tonight will be the last Strong Style Propaganda broadcast for the time being, although they confirm that the armband will remain in play going forward and the same rules will apply. Schaff is currently 5 days away from activating his championship match for the Strong Style Heavyweight Championship, the belt that's within his weight class of course, and he faces one final test before entering the 180-day reign period that would allow him to vacate the armband for a title shot. In his way is Aigle Blanc, who heads in as the heavy underdog for the match. Of course, we've got that size difference with a heavyweight taking on a junior heavyweight tonight, and the match starts now. And the big man in town storyline has advanced and gained heat with this segment, because that is a storyline that we started at the beginning of Propaganda, I think, at least at the start of the championship, and we never really followed through with it, but tonight we will be doing something with it. And Aigle Blanc will be taking on the big man in town, Schaff. And CM Punk was superb, working without a script, and he had the crowd in the palm of his hands the entire time. Ultramantis Black clearly enjoyed having the freedom to go off script as well, and the angle idea that we used was a success, and CM Punk benefited from a hot catchphrase, resulting in a 75 to kick off the show. So pretty good, and yeah, that's the only angle of the night, and that should help definitely towards the average for the show rating. But let's move on then to something that will be less important to the show rating, and that's the opening match, as We get a 57, with both men being exactly even when it comes to in-ring performance, but in a shocking twist, Aigle Blanc has defeated Schaff in 11 minutes 40 by pinfall with a roll-up, and Aigle Blanc wins the Strong Style Propaganda title, meaning that Schaff has fell at the final hurdle of entering that 180-day period and has been dethroned by the underdog Aigle Blanc. And I think this is a good way to end the show, with a babyface win overcoming the odds. And yeah, now Aigle Blanc heads into the new era of the Propaganda armband, where it'll be more of a mid-card title now as champion, and Schaff, the big man in town, has been defeated. But the storyline will continue, I think, and I might make this a bit of a series between the two. But for now, Schaff, as I say, has fallen. And yeah, 57 match, a good way to start the show as we move on to another Propaganda match, as we have a 6-man tag, Bojack, Jackson Drake and Myung Jae Lee taking on Adam Priest, Joseph Anek Jr. and Lavaniel. And it is Myung Jae Lee that's picked up the win tonight for his team, pinning Adam Priest with a bridging hammerlock. And yeah, another babyface win as we continue the show. And I think, again, that's a good way to end the Propaganda event in its final appearance for now. And it seems like we may have made the right choice, at least in terms of who took the fall. So the worst performer of the match was Adam Priest, and the best performer of the match was actually joint between Lavaniel and Joseph Anek Jr. So Adam Priest there really letting his team down, with both of them getting a 56. Then Myung Jae Lee got a 53, so the third best performer, and Bojack with a 51, and Jackson Drake with a 48. Now this match is quite important in terms of kind of assessing who will be staying and who will be going. So I would say Adam Priest once again on the chopping block, and so maybe it's Jackson Drake, but I'm sure there's some work there to be done with him, as he's still quite young, and so is Adam Priest, to be fair. But remember, he was on the original roster before suffering a major injury, which really hampered his development. And yeah, we'll see though, as we do need to kind of build a mid-card division, and some of these names will be sticking around, of course. And yeah, we've got a lot of greens here, including chemistry between Genki Horiguchi and Lavaniel, and some other greens there as well. But let's move on though to the main event, which will see the number one contender for the Junior Heavyweight Championship take on LJ Cleary, who is very much a fan favourite at this point. And in an amazing main event with an 86, so no doubt one of our best ever matches, and what a way to bring an end to Propaganda, by the way, as Shun Skywalker, as you likely predicted, has defeated LJ Cleary in 16 minutes 52, so it took him quite a while to get the job done, but he managed to do so with a Skywalker moonsault after a distraction from Arush. And also during the match we saw Viano Free Jr. and the Masked Woman, who I forgot to change the name of back to Masked Woman, so I've had to edit the text here. But as I say, a huge main event here to bring Propaganda to a close for the final time, at least for now, with an 86, which is unreal. And yeah, Shun Skywalker had an in-ring performance of 80 and LJ Cleary had an in-ring performance of 70, and I probably should have added a creative finish to this one, which would have maybe took it into the 90 range, but nonetheless, we've probably saved ourselves a creative finish as we've managed to get an 86 tonight. Now I'm interested to see how much the production penalties will affect the rating, as we should be in and around the 80 mark, if not more, and that's if there wasn't production penalties, as I say. So yeah, we'll find out how much that does affect things. And the show rating is mostly judged on our main event. So let's go forward then. And we do get quite a big drop from where I would assume we'd be. And yeah, we've got a 75. So with these production penalties, it's really going to be difficult to get amazing ratings, considering we've got an 86 tonight in the main event and we still couldn't break the 80 mark for overall ratings. So we might have to start looking again at making some production upgrades. Now, I don't want to do it this month. As I said earlier in the episode, I want to make sure that we make a profit and we don't have as much expenditure as we did last month. And one thing that we need to do as well this month is assess how much profit we're going to make as a baseline without any additional expenses. So yeah, we're going to sort of go from here, and we're going to take a look at production in just a second, actually, to to look at potential options. But let's finish the show and go to the post-show stuff. And we've made $220,000 on the night tonight. And we did have, I saw 11,000 people in attendance, which I think was a sellout. So going forward, we're going to have 3 touring shows of the same size as tonight's show. So that's over 600 grand profit. And then the main show will probably be about $500,000, I guess. So we're still bringing in the money, but of course, as I say, we're going to assess finances a little bit more at the end of the month. And as well, it's worth noting that now we're dropping propaganda. That means we're going to be making slightly less money per month, and we're going to be down about $220,000 from what we could have made in profit for a month. But I think it's worth sacking the show off in favor of being able to focus on progressing further in the series without having an extra show to deal with a mid-card to build up within an extra show. And we can do it as one with propaganda as a mid-card title, as I say, on the main shows. So yeah, I think that's going to be the right play. But in terms of growth, we've actually gone up in quite a lot of regions in the United States. So we've gone up to 23 in Great Lakes and Mid-Atlantic. New England is now 19. In the Southwest, we've gone up to 39, which is huge. We've gone up to 19 in New England and 17 in Puerto Rico and Hawaii. Alberta and British Columbia have gone up to 14 as well in Canada, and everywhere else remains the same, although all of the yellow regions have gone up slightly in terms of decimal points. But let's continue on. And that last show then was viewed by almost 176,000 people online, which is huge. And we can also confirm that Stephanie Vaquer has now joined Strong Style Americas, which is even more huge, if you ask me. And she hasn't yet got a perception within the roster, but I'm assuming she's going to be a major star. Actually, she is considered a star. Okay, so that's a little bit surprising. So how's she already got one? She hasn't debuted yet. In any case, let's find out where she falls in the creative meeting. And she doesn't make the top 5 of franchise players just yet, which I would say is a surprise. She's also not on Talk the Talk. She's in Showstoppers at number 5. She's not a ring general either. Yeah, I think that just shows how strong our roster is, at least at the very top of the card, for somebody this good to not be considered a franchise player. But I think it's all down to popularity at the end of the day, as well as a few other attributes. And she's got 63 popularity in the Mid-South, which compared to Mayu Iwatani, who the game considers our top star, is actually the same. So that's interesting. And Malachi Black is 65, who's also in the top 5. So you can see she's in and around that range anyway. And I'm sure she'll break into this top 5 at some point in the future. Now let's take another quick look at production then and find out what we might be able to do next month. So if we take a look at production values, we're currently spending $10,000 per night on shows plus $15 per month. And if we were to upgrade, we'd be spending an additional $65,000 per night, plus an additional $35,000 per month, which is crazy. And we're currently getting 2 hits for production value as well, because we're level 5 and I assume NXT are level 7. And I think that's the case. I think NXT are completely maxed out, and that's why we're getting these penalties. And for live event experience, it's not much of a price actually to increase. So if we were to go up to large in live event experience, we'd be spending $2,000 to do it, and then we'd be spending $15,000 per night of shows instead of $5,000 per night. So that would only be $10,000 extra per night, which would, with our new schedule, be an additional $40,000 per month. So that is doable, and I think we're definitely going to do that at the end of the month, actually, now that we think about it. Now, if we go to live event experience on the help screen, if we were to max this one out, we would actually be spending an additional $100,000 per month, and this would be the first time that a per month fee was introduced, plus $25,000 per night of shows. Now, since we're making over $200,000 per night, I think that's actually probably doable. So I think we can, at the end of the month, maximize our live event experience, which would get rid of 2 penalties because it adds up. We're 2 levels behind NXT, so we get 2 penalties for live event experience and 2 penalties for production value. And I think, yeah, at the end of the month, I might just max out live event experience. But that's a final decision to make in the future. But just so we know where we are, I think we're going to do that. And we'll do that in time for the Road to Strong Style 60 tour. So we're going to just play out the summer series as we are, as I say, and try and bring in as much money as possible without spending anything that we don't need to spend. But I think that last show there with Propaganda having an 86 main event, but we only got 75 show rating, shows that we need to basically just make more upgrades in order to make sure that we're not getting as many penalties. And then the better show rating we get, the more we can grow in the Mid-South, which will then increase our attendance and money. But as I've said in the past, the main goal is to grow outside of the Mid-South until we get it almost even, and then it's about growing everything at once, because we need to get to 77 popularity in 5 mainland regions, which will be the Mid-South, Midwest, Southeast and Southwest, then probably Northwest, which is currently the highest of the rest of the group. So there's a way to go, but I think we can get there as long as we're getting the show ratings that we need, as I say, which will happen through these production upgrades. And let's find out where that main event falls in terms of our greatest matches ever. And you can see here that an 86, which is amazing, has only just broken the top 10 and is actually joint with 2 other matches as well. It's actually joint 9th with Killer Kelly versus Mayu Iwatani, as well as Kevin Blackwood defeating Viana Free Jr. in a No Way Out match, and Tyler Bate defeating Viana Free Jr. at True Hate. So Shun Skywalker very much making his mark in this top 100 of matches, and is in a lot of the matches in the top 10 now, including his 2 matches against Xulua, who unfortunately had to leave, and he also holds the record for the greatest match ever in Strong Style America's history against Pac at Strong Style 56 with a 95 rating. So one last thing before we end this episode is we're going to bring back Chris Brooks, who is a solid in-ring performer, as you can see here from his skills and also his past performances in the company, although he does have some slight body damage, but all in all, he's got a lot left in the tank. He's also quite popular in the Mid-South, 49 there, so a kind of top mid-card guy, and he's also got a ton of attributes that we like to see. So he's an amazing babyface and heel, he's creative, he's a dynamo, and there's just a whole bunch of things on here, including people person and tag team specialist as well. And as we've described him in the past, he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to outside of the ring skills as well. So he's got 70 play-by-play, color 64, booking skill of 42 as well, which is the main reason that we're bringing him in, to add him back into the booking team, at least for the foreseeable future. That's unless there's any bad chemistry. Now, he has been in the booking team before, but I didn't see anything about chemistry, so I'm going to have to re-add him and then check again once we get to the Summer Series tour. So we're going to bring him in on a, for now, 3-month contract, again, just to assess the situation. It's going to be a handshake deal, and we're going to go from there. So we will have to cover his travel. We're going to keep merchandise at 25%, and we're going to go to 1,700 instead of 1,800 for his contract. And yeah, he wants $70 more than that, so I'm happy to meet that, and we're going to make this contract offer then. And yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave the episode. It's a little bit shorter than usual, but the Summer Series tour isn't fully planned yet, so I don't want to skip ahead and then realize that I should have made a signing or two. So I'm going to fully lay out the tour, and then in the next episode we can make those signings on the touring contracts. And also I need to make that logo as well, so I need to remember to do that. But with that said, let me know what you think about the decision to bring Strong Style Propaganda to a close, which we're going to do officially now and make it dormant. And let me know which talent from the Propaganda roster that you want to see stick around. And make sure you drop a like down below as we try and hit 400 likes once again. If you want to see the next episode, make sure you head over to Patreon, where you can get access to a load of save points from throughout this series if you want to go back to the start or up until the current year of 2029, and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss the next episode. But until next time, peace.